Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So let me make sure I am up. I am seeing green. Good. And let's check the sound before we get the show on the road. I have an interesting show today. I have a profoundly interesting show. So Grant Cameron is coming on tomorrow. And I have a feeling of where that show is going to go. This show is somewhat of a primer. And I'm going to use my own experiences as the primer. There's a reason I am so fucking interested in odd topics. I don't necessarily have this thing like other news shows. I don't have a bar. Meaning I don't have this section of looking and peering into things and trying to figure out and understanding things that isolates me in other things. This show is fundamentally just me. So I like these things. I think these things are interesting. And in particular when you have sourced information where you can kind of nail down stuff, I think it's fucking fascinating. So this show is going to be somewhat of an odd one. And I want to deviate from politics. I got here at like 4:18 and my wife was like, hey, why don't you have a 4:20 at 4:20? So this is a 4:20, belated 4:20. Missed it by like 10 minutes. But that's okay. Still make it work. So first, I want to thank everyone for their support. That's the first part. And secondly, tomorrow, Grant Cameron and Hard Bastard is going to be on the show. Grant Cameron at 5 p.m., Hard Bastard at 7. Both of those shows are going to be awesome. Grant Cameron is an interesting guy. Meaning, he's a ufologist, but a lot of his work goes into the area of consciousness. And it goes into this area because what he realized was something I realized, which is why I love the guy so much. The phenomena that people talk about, all across the spectrum, whatever they're talking about, there's always this interplay between this consciousness thing versus these other things. So for example, if you're talking about remote viewing, if you're talking about out-of-body experiences, if you're looking at somebody who's talking about a UFO phenomenon and you look at books talking about spirit guides, those things look almost identical. They look almost identical. The experiences that people talk about when they're talking about their abductions, pull through walls and everything else, those things are identical to I guess you could say, scenarios that you end up with out of body if you don't know that you're out of body and, oh my God, I'm being pulled through a wall. In that state, you still have a physical body. For all intents and purposes, you still have that residual image of who you are. But you can imagine that if the person doesn't know that, but the feelings that they're having, when they're telling you energy feelings in the chest, I had these loud noises, I felt like I was being pulled. All of these things are similar to consciousness phenomena. It's fucking fascinating. It's fucking fascinating. When you add in this element of what we know of reality, is there something other than the reality that we know is reality? Is there something else? I guess is the point. Isolating that to the alien thing, the assumption is that aliens being physical matter reality, that is an assumption. And that's one of those things that you hit your head on because the stuff looks so similar. I started this, or in this particular vein of thought, wanting to investigate and interrogate everything. Like Sadi Guru, it's a Indian guy. He has this thing. He was like, somebody said, what happens after you die? And he looks at the guy, he looks at the person who asked him, and he says, I could tell you. He said, but you either believe me or you don't. And in that case, you're stuck in the same situation. Meaning, even if I tell you what happens when you die, when you cross over, you're still stuck in the situation of having to believe what I tell you. You still don't know. You're always stuck in this place of ambiguity where you don't know. You can't even know for certain if whether the people outside of you and the things that you're interacting with are real. You assume that you're real because you know, I think, therefore I am. But you can't really prove that for anybody else. You somewhat take it as an act of faith. You also know that those people can get their hands on you if you fuck up, whether they're real or not. So I'm trying to say, it's like this level of ambiguity that we are with Wisconsin. I don't want to just believe, I want to know. That's the difference. There are times where I've scared the shit out of myself. There are times where I think I was humiliated in one case just because how scared I was. But fundamentally, you get over those things. Like your fear quotient goes a little bit higher as you inch your way to a particular goal. I want to know. That's where it starts. I want to know. When I was, I think it was like 8 years old, and I'm doing this because I kind of want to send this to Grant because I want him to know what he's getting into, because I don't think he watches the show in a way that he would know just by watching the items. So I am going to give a quick primer of me. These are the weird experiences, these are the oddities, and these are the things that kind of propel me forward in this particular area of what the fuck does that mean? What is that? Why does it act that way? What is a model that I can use to kind of map out what is reality? My earliest, weirdest oddity was, I think it was like 7 or 8 years old. I would lay in bed and I would feel something come into the room and sit on the bed. Now, I am wide awake, and like an 8-year-old, I have the logic in my head of, if you put the cover over your head, nothing can hurt you. It's like, there could be a mugger and a killer that comes in the room, but if your head is in the cover, you are absolutely safe. This happened a lot, and it used to freak me out like nobody's business. Never, I mean, it wouldn't do anything. It was just, I could just hear the presence, and I can feel it on the bed. Yeah, it would freak me out. Head in covers. Nothing can hurt you if you put your head in the covers. This got slightly weirder because at times it would feel like the covers were being pulled or the covers was being pushed. But ultimately, it was bizarre phenomena. Let me say it that way. It was extraordinarily bizarre. There was another case when I was a kid. We were in... Yeah, I think my mom's okay with telling this. I was with my uncles, and we were in a camping trip. I think we were in the Poconos or something. We were in the middle of nowhere, barely in like a trailer. We were going on vacation. They took me with them on the vacation. And I wake up 6 a.m. and bolt to them and say, I need to go to the phone. I need to go to the phone right now. You need to take me to the phone. And apparently, I remember this slightly, making such a fuss and pissing them off to the point where they're taking me to the phone, where I call my mom. And I say, hey, look, I know things are bad, but it will be okay. Now, for whatever reason I did this, whatever took place, it got across to me that I needed to do that. My mom was at the other end thinking of what, let's say having bad thoughts. This thing of why am I here? Why should I be here? And essentially being in this extraordinarily black mood where she's thinking about, would life be better if I wasn't here? It is fucking bizarre. She said that call snapped her back to reality. Oh fuck, I have a son. My son loves me. What the fuck am I talking about? This odd phenomenon, for the most part, that eventually stopped. Fortunately, it eventually stopped. Somewhere across the way, I came across this thing of auras. It's like energy field around the body and everything else. And I thought to myself, if this is real, you should have some capacity to observe it. My rule was always, you should be able to observe it. Don't necessarily exclude what somebody's telling you right off the bat. See if you can verify it. It may be weird, but to be honest, we don't necessarily know what this is. Verify it. Use the rules that they give you for those rules and see what takes place. If it's BS, it's BS. If it's not, what the fuck is it if it's not? The aura thing. I'm in Las Vegas. I'm at a casino playing chess. I'm at a chess tournament. And I'm sitting in my hotel room and I'm meditating. I'm getting myself prepared for game. I'm about to go to war. To kick some ass. And as I'm sitting there, I'm saying kick some ass. I was in the casino till like 6 that morning. Before the game. But I'm sitting there and I'm in a zen mood. I'm in my zone. And I open my eyes and I'm seeing a light coming around me in this kind of weird, hazy way. And I'm like, holy shit, that's amazing. Now, I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this for a while. It's a little light. It's just a little inch. And it stays, and it's perpetual. And for the most part, you can pretty much see it anytime. It's just the way you tilt your eyes or whatever. But I'm like, holy shit, that's amazing. Is that always there? That's the first question. And if it's not always there, Why can you see it sometimes? Why can't you see it sometimes? Those type of questions started to come up. And then it's, well, if that's there, what else is there? Is there something else that's there? One of the other, I think the weirdest experience, the thing that really tilted me in a particular direction, we were, what was it? It was a television show, Montel Williams. Montel Williams. I don't know if you remember this. I'm old. Montel Williams. He used to have a psychic, Sylvia Brown, that was on the show. At one point, Sylvia Brown was huge. And Sylvia Brown kept talking about her spirit guides. She was like, yeah, my spirit guide Francine. And this sounds so fucking outlandish. She was like, this woman has somebody who's talking to her. Oh my God, she has somebody who's talking to her. She ended up with a book. The book was called Talking to Your Spirit Guides. My rule is, can you demonstrate it? Can you prove it? If it's real, I'll take you at your own word. See what happens. I bought that book. That book was short. I read through that book. And in the book, she's telling about meditations and everything else. And I said, fine, I've never meditated before. Fuck it, let's do it. What I realized, I was terrified. That sounds so bizarre. And yet, it's absolutely true. Like, what I mean is, I would get into these meditative states right off the bat. Never meditated before, but I would get into these meditative states. And we get to the point where you feel like you're being plugged into an electrical outlet. That's what it felt. It felt like there was this kind of charge that was just surging through you as you're doing the meditations. And it would get to a point where it would freak me out and I would stop. And I did that for, I think it was like 3 months. I was chickening out for 3 months. Now, the reason is I was chickening out for 3 months because I felt like there's a horizon. There's something there. I already feel weird and I don't necessarily. Then the secondary question of, hey, what if she's right? What if she's right? Like, I'm somewhat laughing at the spirit guide thing, but I'm like, what if she's right? What is the thing that you're encountering if you cross that breach and there's something standing across that particular breach? And the breach is not a real breach. I'm using this from the standpoint of, as you're in that state, it feels like you're moving towards something. At some point, I get over the fear of it somewhat. And I say, fuck it, and let it happen. It was one morning, wide awake, laying down, still kind of in a hypnagogic state. And I feel myself getting in that way. I didn't wake myself up. I said, screw it, let's see what happens. Nothing happened. I feel something in the room. I say hello, and something says hello back, and I wake up. Not wake up, but at this point, I'm excited. Let me say it that way. And at that point, I have 1,000 questions that run through my head at the same time. The state is broken. I am wide awake. But I call my mom and say, oh my God, you're never going to believe what happened. At this point, I am on cloud 9 and I am hyped up like nobody's business because I'm like, holy shit, I just made contact with something. I don't know what that something is. My mom was like, oh, okay, you know, yeah, that's interesting. Fair enough. And mind you, and then it's still all of these questions of, was my subconscious fucking with me? That's the first question. B, if your subconscious is not fucking with you, oh my God. And by the way, even if your subconscious is fucking with you, that's still fucking amazing. Like, all of those scenarios are fucking amazing. The very next night, I am out of body, literally, first time in my life, I'm out of body, and I am encountering a person who tells me, my name is so-and-so, I can't remember her name, and I am your expositor. I am hyperventilating in this dream state. I am terrified. It's just the weirdest thing in the world. I am coming face to face with something that I asked for, and I'm terrified by the results of the thing that I came to face with. I'm terrified for a weird reason though. When I look back on it, it looks strange. I am acknowledging that there's something else other than me. And I know that sounds bizarre, but it's true. It's like you walk out of a room, there's nothing in the room, then all of a sudden you look back and other people are walking out the room. It's like, what the fuck? This is happening. This is bizarre. This is not in the normal way of things and the way we go about our affairs. There was nobody in that room, and somebody came out that room. That is something else other than something like me. It's weird. I'm in my 20s. I don't necessarily know how to process this. And I don't have a paradigm for which to understand the experience that's taking place. And so the only thing I know this is as, that's a guide. That's the way I understood it. That's the way I knew it. Now, she says, I am your expositor. I've never heard the word expositor before, so I had no idea how to process that. I kept the word in my head. I said, when I get back to my body, I am going to type this word in and I'm going to figure this shit out. And so I kept repeating it to myself as I'm in a state. And as we're talking, like, this is one of the most bizarre experiences. It was one of the most mind-blowing experiences. And for the most part, my entirety of the rest of my life was pivoted by this particular experience. Essentially, me learning about that stuff, the weirdness, the oddities, the phenomenology, that stuff is there, whatever that stuff is. Beyond saying I'm an expositor, the event went on for a while. And there were certain things, it was like tests or something. But it wasn't stuff that I knew in my conscious mind. It was stuff that was just kind of just a knowing of sorts. It was like, it's you, but it's not quite you. There's more to you than you in a sense. And all of that went through. And then she gets to the last part, and she gets close to me. And she gets extremely close to me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is... this older woman is about to take advantage of me. And instead of going through me, she instead of touching me, she just went through me. Now, this was this weird merger. This kind of it's like an intermingling. I don't know how to call it, but it's this elation. It was nothing like it. It's this mind-blowing experience where, yeah, there's nothing like it. Now, I can't even process it. At the end of it, we're sitting there, we're talking, and she says, at this point, I'm younger, I was worried about my weight. My weight was going up. And this became so trivial, it's amazing. It's like you have this mind-blowing experience, and then you get to the very end, it's this little trivial thing that somebody would say. And I started to slide out the state. When you're, at least for me, I don't know how other people process it, when you end up going back to your body, for me, my items shut down, like my ability to see, walk, talk, etc. It's like your systems start to fall apart in that state, and you wake up back in your other waking state. She pulls me back into the state. Never seen it happen before, but pulls me back in, and she says, yeah, when I was there, I had to exercise. How she says that? When I was there, I had to exercise, or I had to do something, exercise or something. And she said, you're evolving. And yeah, the last part, when I was there, I had to exercise. Now, I wake up that morning, I write all of this down, because again, it blew my mind. And I call my mom and tell my mom what happened. It's like, you would never believe what just took place. You would never believe what the fuck just took place. Immediately after that, for the next 2 years, I had lucid dreams over and over again. It almost like it was, it wasn't something I controlled per se, but it would happen over and over and over again. You get into the states, you have the capacity to call for other people, to go other places. So I used to some degree, play in the states. In one case, I went in, called for my primary, the same person I met before. There was another one that came, she said, my name is Kinzia, your primary is held up, predisposed, something to that effect. And I'm like, holy shit, there's more than one. There's more than one. At that point, those lucid states went on for like 2 years. At a certain point, they started to trail off, but between those 2 years, there were a lot of bizarre shit to take place. There was a lot of bizarre shit taking place. At a certain point, it edged off. And so it was like between 27-ish, a little higher. A lot of the experiences trailed off until I got older. When I got older, I started thinking to myself, I used to have these fucking interesting experiences. Is that something that can be controlled, or is that something that's just random? At which point, I found things like remote viewing, out-of-body experiences, and then at some point, the UFO stuff. Now, what I realized was, the way I was processing the experience originally was through a certain lens. That lens is not necessarily right. That lens is not necessarily wrong. It's just a way of looking at the experience. The fact is, I have no idea what that person or those people were in those states. No idea. No clue. It could be a figment of my subconscious. It could be something else. I have no clue. I can't look at it through the lens of this kind of new agey stuff. It's like, what lens do you look at it through? You shouldn't look at it through any lens. Even ambiguous. That's all it is. I take her at her word. She's my expositor. By the way, at the end of that experience, I immediately got up, went to the typewriter, and put that in, because I had no idea what that word meant. I had never heard the word before. The word ends up being... let's see. Person or thing that explains complicated ideas or theories. Lucid expositor of different ideas. I had never heard that word. If it wasn't for that, I would probably have discounted the experience. It's not that I was non-believing or didn't want to believe per se. It was more, if I could explain it in a way, I would have explained it away, but I don't know the word. That's the lagging detail. But at some point, just to go through this faster, I ran up to the UFO subject. And I thought to myself, it's like, yeah, this is fucking fascinating. And even through those years, I still had the UFO thing sometimes. And I was like, this is fucking fascinating. This is one of the mind-blowing ideas. Nobody talks about this. And this seems to be one of the most important things. Look like you would talk about it. Now, at this point, I got into OBE stuff, and I was able to get to the point of coming out of body consciously. Could only do it once. Could never do it again. But, and again, scaring the shit out of myself. Terrified. Like, it's hard to get across. These states feel so weird. Like, the transition in the states feel bizarre. You start, like, for the OBE stuff, you get to the point where your body goes through this kind of hypnagogic state. Your body starts to freeze up. You can't move your legs and everything else. It does it naturally. That's the state that you kind of want to get into. That feels weird by itself. Your body going numb. Your body going to sleep while you're still conscious is slightly weird. And it's not necessarily that your body goes numb. It's the energy that you feel while it's doing that. It's the sensations. So you're going through this odd state where it feels like there's a vacuum cleaner on your ears, like there's this hurricane. And then it feels like your heart is going to beat out of your chest. And at a certain point, I punked out. The first time I punked out. And then I shamed myself back into going back into the state. And as I got to the point, it kept going, and I said, fuck it. It's going to happen. And I kept my mind in this mindset of, don't think of anything. Just block the shit out. There was stuff that was kind of popping into my head, like, what if there's something standing there when you pop out of your body? So just odd shit like that. And I was trying to keep those kind of thoughts out. And I realized as I'm laying in bed, I'm staring at the ceiling, but my eyes are closed. And I'm at this point, I'm like, holy shit, I'm out. Holy shit, this is awesome. This is awesome. And I'm like, all right, that's enough. Inch in your way, just 1 inch. I just want to make sure that it is. I just want to verify that it's there. All these people keep talking about it. I want to verify it's there. I like to verify. I like to know. It's not enough for me to just, I believe in this. I want to know it. It's a difference in those things. The UFO thing, I think I started a few years ago. And like everything else that I get involved in, I get overly involved in trying to understand. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's chess, if it's, at that point, I guess computer science at one point, if it's like historical context, writing, whatever it is, it becomes over the top with it. Even this, like talking about a blog, what's, political stuff, just becomes a little bit overbearing. In this case, it was that emphasis placed on the subject of the UFOs. And then it became, holy shit, there are people out there trying to contact these things. What are they doing to try to contact these things? It becomes that. Now, for me, that, again, scared the shit out of me. I'm trying to make this point. It's almost like you have to build up a certain amount of fear quotient in order to even get to the point of trying to understand what this is. Most people just block the shit out. But when you actually get curious and actually want to know, blocking it out. It becomes somewhat a fearful thing. You just have to push through being scared of it. At some point, you get used to it. Human beings are malleable. We get used to shit pretty quickly. There we go. Am I off? Am I off? Come on. Come on. There we go. I should be back up. Good. Yeah, it was fascinating. But my wife, it was freaking my wife out. So I started those meditations. And there are these tapes, these meditative tapes. And the meditative tapes have like, one was like an older Indian, a Native American, giving this like, you know, oh man, I don't say it, this feels so racist. he's giving this is a meditation, but he's doing it in this way where they're like Indian drums in the background. And he has this voice that has this gravity associated with it. And he's getting into this meditative calm state. He's like, ground yourself on Mother Earth. You know, those type of things. But again, my rule applies. Try it on their own terms. Don't shame it. Try it on their own terms. Either it works or it doesn't. And in this case, that's what I did. And I would do it conscious. Again, overly emphasize it. My wife at one point was like, I don't know if this shit is real or not, but just know you have a wife. And that wife is laying beside you. And if anything comes into this room, there's going to be hell to pay. Now, I understood what she was talking about, but I have to be honest. I don't think I looked at it in a way of something is coming to get me. I don't think I looked at it from those terms. And I don't know if I even believed it to that degree in those terms. What I did do, I had this idea of, there's no way to know how this is going to take effect, but fuck it. I'm going to try it. This went on for maybe 2 months. And we started getting weird stuff. So at one point, seeing a craft fly by. But it flew by so fast, it's like, what the fuck just happened? Did you see that? Yes, I saw that. Do you know what it was? I don't know what it was. It looks like an egg. Yeah, kind of. There was something around. First weird sighting in the air in my life. It's bizarre. Then this gets into dreams, dream states. Like, this is kind of what I mean. The phenomena between the two are fucking fascinatingly close. Grant Cameron. I mean, this is kind of why I'm so hyped up with Grant Cameron coming here. Because again, the phenomena is so close. Grant Cameron is a guy who melds those things together. My dream states started to change significantly. Extremely significantly. I'm not going to go through all of it, but it culminates into this one dream state that scared the shit out of me. And it scared me so bad where I was embarrassed by how terrified I was. Like, I'm trying to put that in context on how terrified a person can be. I'm laying in bed. I mean, keep in mind, this went on for months. This wasn't just one. This was a lot of odd states, like meeting things that don't necessarily look human. It was bizarre. But in this case, it was... But again, those are dream states. But in this case, I am in bed. I believe I'm in bed. All of this stuff feels real. And I hear something upstairs. And as I hear something upstairs, I get up to go check it. And I take 2 steps and I'm frozen. I can't move. Can't move a muscle. And my wife asks me, she says, babe, you're okay? And I was like, I can't move. And I fall back to the bed. And I hear something come downstairs. And I'm laying there, frozen, terrified, absolutely terrified. And in my head, I am screaming, no. I've made 2 assumptions. There's something upstairs, and I can't move. And I've read enough books for UFO stuff to know that when people are frozen, bad shit is about to take place. In my head, I'm screaming, no. Now, I wake up, and I remember getting up and feeling like, oh, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. It's like, that's so terrifyingly embarrassing. If that was my subconscious fucking with me, I don't care. That was absolutely embarrassing. Again, this thing of being terrified of what you asked for. You asked for it, this is what you wanted, right? So I carried that as somewhat of a mark of shame. It was a mark of shame. But I looked at it as, well, you'll get better. If it happens again, you'll be better. You'll do better. You're trying to be a little bit more aware in the situation. Within 2 or 3 months, it happened again. And by the way, everything stopped at that point. There was nothing else. No more weirdness, nothing else. About 2 or 3 months, same situation. Laying in bed, frozen. Can't move a muscle. I hear something upstairs. And I am starting to panic. Big time. Like, this is different because I wasn't standing up. I was stuck in bed at this point. But I'm panicking. And I hear my wife say, and this is so fucking weird. She says, babe, this is what you wanted. There's nothing you could do about it. Just calm down. And I think to myself, I'm like, well, she is kind of right. I'm like, she is right. Now, this makes no sense. Because my wife would not be the person who's the calm person in that situation. That calm person would be me trying to keep her calm. But she's, you know, hey, look, it'll be okay. Just relax. That could not have come from my wife. That would not have been my wife. But it works. I calm down. Like it's weird. I started telling myself, like, it's like, just calm down. In fact, I tell myself the same thing I tell myself when I'm about to jump off a cliff, like skydiving or bungee jumping or something like that. Just calm down. It's okay. You'll be all right. Keep your shit together. Keep it together. Take deep breaths. Like, whatever you gotta do. Keep your shit together. Doesn't matter the situation. Keep your shit together. And I do. I calm down. I hear something hit the stairs or hit the floor. I hear something in the room. I hear multiple people in the room. And at this point, fear drains out of me and I just get curious. I'm profoundly curious at this point. I am not even scared anymore. I am just curious. What the fuck is in the room? This is the second time this has happened. What the fuck is in the room? And they're talking about me. They're saying stuff like, oh, he's curious. He's curious. And after the paralysis starts to ease up. It's almost like the more curious I got and the less fearful I got, the paralysis kind of just eased away. In which case, I could stick my head up and figure out who was there. I poke my head up, and somebody's staring at me. And it's an African-American woman. And I immediately think to myself, BS. I think to myself, BS. This is BS. That's not a real image. I wake up that morning and I say, yes. Fucking A. Because whether it's my subconscious or not, I don't want to be that pussy. I don't want to be that guy screaming in his head, no, because he's terrified of the experience that he himself asked for. It doesn't matter whether it's real. I don't necessarily want to be a pussy in that scenario. And I was fucking proud in that particular part. I was proud. Some of these experiences are bizarre. Some of these experiences are very bizarre. The OBE stuff, the lucid dream stuff, you know, when you're in other states and you realize you have a body somewhere else, it gets a little bizarre. Now, Grant gets, and I haven't even gotten to the remote viewing stuff. That stuff is fucking fascinating. My point is, Grant ties all this stuff together. He ties all of it together. I just think there is amazing similarities between the stuff that takes place that people study when they're talking about like noetic sciences, psi research, stuff like Ingo Swann or SRI Institute, Pear Labs, Stanford Research Institute. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And then you have this other element of, is there some other intelligence that uses this in a way that we don't quite understand? Like, if you were telling somebody about radio waves or microwaves or something on the electromagnetic spectrum, it was like, well, we can't see it, we can't touch it, can't put our hands on it. It is actually there. I mean, you can't prove that it's there. Or at some point, yeah, you get to the point where you can prove that, yes, the electromagnetic spectrum exists. It's there. We can measure it, even though we can't necessarily put our hands on it. There may be another spectrum in this way. Meaning consciousness may run on spectrums there may be other things out there that function on some other particular spectrum. I mean, you can make an argument that consciousness is the thing that creates all of this particular construct in the same way it creates the constructs in your dream states. We have no idea what this is. That's kind of my point. It is fascinating that these guys are peering into this particular aspect of reality, this kind of oddities and weirdness. Now, Grant pulls this into this kind of... Grant has a... He has a video where he's doing it. It's almost entirely on consciousness. And he brings in people who consider themselves to be experiencers. And showing the connection between the way these guys function and make contact versus the way some of the other people were doing their like remote viewing and all this other stuff. Making this argument that each person is somehow connected to the whole. Like one is whole. Like you started off with one cell. That cell duplicated and became the entirety of you. All of you is in each cell of you, in that sense. Expanding that to this kind of more mythic, each consciousness is one of a particular whole. Wondering out loud whether or not those things functions on some kind of spectrum that we just can't necessarily measure in the way that we, you know, proceed with our affairs. It's fucking fascinating. I love this area. I do news the overwhelming majority of the time because it's fucking physical matter reality. We have concerns. We're dealing with real life. But I do dedicate a percentage of whatever I do for this area. Because there is a connection here, meaning my end for this, the moment that they started bringing that stuff into the New York Times, it seems like 2018, they're releasing information to get across something to the American public. That gives me an in. The very thing of bringing this particular thing into the conversation brings other stuff into the conversation. So it allows me to get a little bit more odd in the conversation that we're having. Grant is all spent tying this together. He has a lot of years in the UFO experiencer circuit. So he should be fucking amazing. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. This went way, way long, so sorry this went so far. Wonder what type of RV Jamal is info. Hey you, hi. So yeah, hey you, hi. That was one of the things I started trying. I think this was in 3-4 years ago. I actually even saved my my remote viewing things. I saved all of it to Facebook. Every time I did a viewing session, I did like 30. I would... Courtney Brown has a remote viewing thing on his channel. It's Farsight Institute, where he gives like lectures and everything else. He gives you free courses on how to do it. I never went through the entirety of the lecture. I think I went through like the first 4. I felt I'm an Aries moon, man. I was like, all right, that's enough. I figured shit out afterwards. And so I ran to a certain point, and I was like, all right, that's good. I'll do it from here. And I would go through the meditations, do the calming exercises. And even with that, I would get weirdness. It would be so bizarre. Like you're sitting in the room and you're seeing this stuff floating around in the same way in being in Las Vegas where you're seeing your aura. And in this case, it's just stuff like energy or stuff floating around the room. And as you're looking at it, it's like, all right, don't freak out. Just observe. Don't freak out. This looks weird. But no, I do the meditations. And you would get your number. There's a number called code remote viewing monkey or something, but it gives you numbers. It just gives you like 1358. Now that number 1358 has a picture with it somewhere on the internet, but you as a remote viewer have no idea what that number is. You write the number down, 1358, and your job and your task is, what is the picture connected with? Now, or what is the picture in that particular envelope? Or who is the person in that envelope? What is the context of whatever we're talking about in that envelope? It's like, as long as your conscious mind doesn't know what it is, some aspect of you is tapped into in order to pull information from that particular thing. My very first one, I thought to myself, there is no fucking way this works. There is no way. There is no way. when you read into the research the CIA was doing, this is fucking phenomenal. It actually does work, and it is real. This is something the CIA and these guys were doing for 20, 30 years. I would say look up Ingo Swann. This is amazing. Pat Price. There's a few of these guys. Joe McNoggle. World-class remote viewers. Man, they're amazing. But, yeah, my very first one. I'm sitting there. I'm like, there's no way this works. There's no way this works. But I try it. My wife takes a picture, and she puts a number on the picture, and she gives me the number. And I taste metal, but I don't necessarily attribute it to anything, but I write it down. This is a sensation, no matter. And I get this awareness of a trophy. I thought it was a trophy or a goblet, something like that. I think it was a goblet. And so I wrote down like a goblet and kind of drew what I thought it was. The picture was a golden trophy. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God. That's a cup, that's a trophy. Now, at this point, I am beyond hyped. Because I'm like, oh my God, there's no fucking way that's right. And yes, it was right. So at that point, all right, I'm interested. Maybe that was luck. I don't know how that was luck, but maybe that was luck. Let's try this shit again. And I started doing it day after day after day after day. And again, this is one of those things you dive into. My wife is like, all right, he's not out harming anybody. Fair enough. If this is what he wants to do this time, this is what he wants to do this time. So I would have all of these sessions that I would do. The sessions wouldn't be over long, like 30 minutes, maybe an hour. And I would do it day after day after day. Like 30, 40 of these things. And most of were hits. Like there were some, like maybe 3 or 4 where I might have been way off. Where either I didn't kind of get into the right state or I got pulled down because my conscious mind got into it. But the majority were hits. At the very least, it got some aspect of it. There were some that were dead-on hits. Like one was like this kind of waterfall. I called it a stucco wall. But from the picture standpoint, it looks like a stucco wall. If you were just looking at the picture, you didn't know any better. It looks like stucco. One of the awesome ones that I got that was weird and strange and off-putting a little bit. I don't remember the numbers for the test or for the thing, but I'm doing the session and it feels like a war zone. So I write down war zone. I'm writing down the elements in it, like explosions or conflict, etc. I am not seeing a picture per se, if that makes sense. It's like you just know. It's like awareness. It's like something drops into your head and you're like, oh. It's weird. At least for me. I'm not visual in that way. Like I don't see that stuff well. It's just, so I just explain. It's like you know it. It's just awareness of something. And I get to the point where I'm writing this stuff down. It feels like explosions. I interpret it as a war zone because I feel like explosions. I feel like things blowing up, that type of stuff. And in one of the cases, somebody, I feel, it's strange. I'm trying to explain this because it feels weird. It's like this presence of somebody, or this guy, this last thought of, I'm never going to see my kids again. That ran through my head, which was, again, strange. And at that point, I somewhat in the session. I mean, it was going for like 20 minutes where I was going through the different steps. It was Chernobyl. It wasn't a war zone. It was a tangential type thing. I kind of missed it from the context was right, but the actual event was off. Now, I am not good at this. I'm okay at this. I seem to hit my targets when I do it, in particular when I was doing it often. But you have people who are amazing at this. Like I guess in my head, I looked at it as if I can always see the first stone, then I can kind of see the other stone for where they go. If I can nail that, say, yes, I've done 40 of these, and most of these were reasonable hits. Some were excellent hits, and some were hits to the point of feeling like you were in a particular place other than where you were. Meaning, like, there was one where I felt like I was actually walking around in that particular area, observing the spot. It's strange phenomena. It's just strange phenomena. I mean, Stanford Research Institute was doing research into this stuff going back in the 70s. They thought the Soviets were involved in getting something like this, so they themselves started to look into this particular research, the psi research, psi phenomena. Enter Ingo Swann. Yeah, the remote viewing thing is fascinating. It's fucking fascinating. I mean, you always need to be able to confirm your results. But, yeah. Yeah. I like remote viewing. It's fascinating. Remote influence is something else. Interesting stuff. You know, that movie, The Man Who Stares at Goats, that was partially a true story. Like, that was, believe it or not, that was partially a true story. We were paying, the U.S. government had these, like, hippies in these kind of psychological research, the SAP phenomena. It was slightly real. It was slightly real. Not sure what kind they teach. Let's see. Washington Post wants to tell us who Gina Haspel. Wow, Washington Post new owner got $600 million for CIA to build a cloud for the CIA. Oh wow, we jumped to the CIA. I was trying to stay out of politics. I was trying to stay weird. Watch Annihilation super high. That movie is fucking trip. Annihilation. Remote viewing is interesting. Yeah. Oh god, Trump calling for a space force. Oh god. That is terrifying to me, man. That is terrifying to me. Yeah. Alright, guys. I'm going to end this. It looks like something's going on with my camera. My camera's being weird. I know this was a little strange lecture. I wanted to give something for... I don't know if Grant Cameron knows who I am. I don't know if he knows some of the weird stuff that went through. So I can send him this video to be like, dude, this is so you know what you're getting into. Just so you know, these are my experiences. So, alright guys. Intersectionalism may have more relevance to dimensions than feminists loving Islam. Oh god. Alright. I'm going to end this and we can start a new stream up. Give me about 10 minutes. I know there's another story that I want to do today. So, alright guys. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks everyone.